Hey again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder and Lieutenant Steve Bannon. Fire your cannons at Esquires on June 3rd, 2022. If anybody knows Steve Bannon and knows how to get a message to him, I would like him to watch this video, or at least have one of his staff watch the video and decide if they think it has any value. But it'd be better if Steve did, because it's about him and what's happening to him in this court case, and what's happening in the United States, and all the effort he's putting in trying to make sure that the election is properly done. And I'm just saying, well, there's one more step after that, Steve, and that's to make sure that they take their oath of office after they finished. Because the people that we believe running the country now have not taken an oath to satisfy the 6th article of the Constitution, and the government of the United States is vacant. And it's been covered with this thing called the United States of America, which is actually a dominion of King George III and his successors, according to a peace treaty. And it's run by esquires, which are crown agents that have taken over the legal system and now the political system of the Republicans and the Democrats that make up this thing called the democracy, which is not even in the Constitution. There is no democracy in the Constitution. There's only a Republican form of government. You can find that in the 4th article. Right? So Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, any of these yahoos, they have not taken the oath to satisfy the 6th article of the Constitution. But neither has your state's governor or any judge in your state or any attorney general or the secretary of state or the county commissioner or the township commissioner or the mayor or anyone else who's allegedly holding an office in the government in the United States. Before they can do that, they have to take an oath to satisfy the 6th article of the Constitution, because they're an officer of the state or an officer of the United States. And nobody's taken it, Steve. I've shown it in many, many videos. It's impossible to deny. Right? So you're going to a court where there's a judge sitting there that did not take an oath to the Constitution. What do you think your chances are? Right? He's not representing the United States. He's representing the United States of America. It's a foreign court. You basically been taken to a foreign jurisdiction by your esquire that's pretending to be your legal aid or your counsel. So I'm going to show you a few things, and let's take a look. Right, so let me go back one step. So this is looking at PACER, right, which is where you can go look up cases in the federal system. And if you go into the District of Columbia and put in Bannon last name, Stephen first name, you see that Stephen is a member of, got 3 different things going on here. 3 matches. And only one of them are you a defendant. So let's click on that. And look at that. Steve Bannon is a defendant in 2 different cases. Steve Bannon is a defendant in 2 cases. Well, how can that be, Steve? You're paying attention now, right? You're a defendant in 2 different cases. You may be going to one case to argue, well, what about the other case? And then we look at what these cases are, and really they have the same number, except one has a -1, and then how they describe it is different. So like USA versus Bannon, that's like a civil case, plaintiff versus defendant. Or Stephen K. Bannon by himself, that's more like a probate case. Now, Stephen K. Bannon is not your name. They're concealing your true identity, which is part of how they do their business. They don't identify themselves. They don't identify you. All right, it's all done under pseudonym and fictitious names. But in this fictitious case, as many documents have been filed. And it all started with this. All right, here's the indictment for Steve Bannon, Stephen K. Bannon, by the United States of America, where it says it was received by the U.S. District and bankruptcy courts, but the document says United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Well, those courts don't have the same names. I mean, this is legal stuff, man. I mean, if it ain't the same down to the jots and tittles of the law, it's not the fucking law. Right? So what this is showing is the law says there's 2 different courts in this involved somehow in this document. And the United States of America, again, is a dominion of King George III, Treaty of Peace, 8 Stat 80. It's a law of the United States, supreme law of the land, by the way, because it's a statute at large, where it says that the King of Great Britain, France, Ireland, Defender of the Faith, Duke of Brunswick and Lunenburg, Arch-Treasurer and Prince-Elect of the Holy Roman Empire, NCA, and of the United States of America. It's all King George's successors' jurisdictions, whose, now is the Rothschilds. After Waterloo, England won. Rothschild had an agent there who ran his ass back, got back before everybody else did, and told everybody that England lost. So then England sold all their stocks, stock market crashed, and Rothschild went in and bought it up. Next thing you know, they come and say, hey, we won, and guess who the new owner of the crown was for the winner of the war between England and France? Well, that would have been the Rothschilds. Now, you could say, well, it's the United States of America, but, it can also be called the United States. But that isn't how this treaty is set up. See, here it says United States all by itself. Here it says United States of America. There's the United States of America. Oh, we got some Esquires involved. Esquire. All right, this is ESQR dot. This is ESQ apostrophe R. And this is just ESQR. 3 different styles of some kind of abbreviation for something that means something or it wouldn't be on there, but they're not the same. United States of America, United States. You get what I'm saying, Steve? Right? You're being screwed over by Esquires. It's just the way it is. All right, here's where your porking really started. They had you waive an arraignment. And at the arraignment is where the prosecution would have to bring in the proof of their case. But instead you waited. No, you don't need to prove anything. We'll just go to court. Okay, thanks. Right? You're agreeing to go to the jurisdiction of the United States of America as Stephen K. Bannon to be tried for breaches of something that they say that you did. Right? So just quickly back to the original indictment then that was received by the clerk at U.S. District and Bankruptcy Courts. If we go to the last page of this document, we will see that it was not signed by the foreperson of the jury, which is a requirement on an indictment. So it's a simulated legal process acting as one, right? Attorney for the United States. Well, why does this say he's the attorney for the United States when the thing said that the plaintiff is the United States of America? Well, we can clearly see now that there's 2 different entities. Well, I think it's because somebody's pulling a fast one on you, Steve. Right? This is appearance of counsel that was put in where it says that whoever this is, somebody with a fictitious name, Amanda R. Vaughn. That's not her full legal name, so really, that's not the name that she can put on here. Whatever Renee or whatever her middle name is what needs to be on there. Now, this says the U.S. Attorney Office. Now, other places you'll see that they're from the United States Attorney's Office, right? Sometimes it's this way, sometimes it's that way. There's a reason for it, but I don't have the cipher to follow every trick that they do. I just can see them when I see them, right? But she's the counsel for the United States of America. She's the counsel for King George against Stephen K. Bannon, who does not reside in the United States. Stephen Keith Bannon does. Stephen Keith Bannon, who's served his country, not Stephen K. Bannon, but it is where they gave you Stephen K. Bannon. Well, that's how they do it with the enlisted. Actually, in one of the forms you fill out, you start out as like Robert Allen Rutluski, and before you're done, you're agreeing to certify that the name of the enlistee is Robert A. Rutluski. I wonder how they do that. Well, what do we got? Well, here's somebody else coming in. Oh, this guy's coming in for you. He was retained for you. Didn't that? So here's one of the belligerents that got you to agree to waive the hearing where they were with the defense would, or the prosecution had to bring in their their evidence. To waive your arraignment. Right? Now, we don't need to see any evidence. We'll just go ahead and go to court. That's what this guy did for you. That was David. That's David's best work. Him and there's some other Pop-Tarts here. Who were they? Silver and Thompson. Oh, yeah, I bet you paid big money for these people. So now here we got somebody calling themselves M. Evan Corcoran. Doesn't exist. There is no M. Evan Corcoran in the United States. You couldn't get on an airplane with that name if the Real ID Act was in place right now. Right? Because the Real ID Act requires that you use your full legal name on the document to get an ID, like a state ID or a driver's license. Got a little gold star up in the right-hand corner. And to get it, you had to bring in some kind of birth document. Right? Without that, it was supposed to have been in 2020, but they've suspended or they moved it ahead. You still can. But soon enough, if you had a document with a middle initial or a first initial, it doesn't really matter what initial, something other than your full legal name, you're not going to be able to get on an airplane. And the Real ID Act defines your full legal name as your first name, your middle names, your last name, no initials, no nicknames. Now, truthfully, like Robert Allen is not Robert first name, Allen middle name. It's Robert Allen first name. I don't have a middle name. Therefore, I don't have a middle initial. That's the way we do things in the United States. This isn't the United States you're dealing with. You're dealing with a foreign jurisdiction in the United States called the United States of America, which has every right to be here because that was the agreement on the treaty. It's just, if they're going to be in the government, they need to take an oath of office to the 6th article of the Constitution. And they're not doing it. And they don't have anybody else doing it, so there's no officers of the United States or the several states. Let's look at that real quick since we're here. Here's one stat 23. This was the first law passed after the ratification of the Constitution, signed into law by George Washington himself, an act to regulate the time and manner of administering certain oaths, right? June 1st, 1789, where it says that the oath or affirmation required by the 6th article of the Constitution of the United States shall be administered in the following form. I state your name, that would be that full legal name, Robert Allen Rutluski, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States. Period. Right? Without that oath, you haven't satisfied the 6th article of the Constitution. Now, if we go and take a quick look at like what Congress did in the 117th Congress this last time around, and we go down here where it says after they had adjourned for the day, now we're going to put this in the record, so obviously this can't be official business because they've already adjourned for the day, but it didn't stop them from putting it in the congressional record where they said that the oath of office required by the 6th article of the Constitution of the United States, comma, and as provided by Section 2 of the Act of May 13th, 1884, which is your 23 Stat 22, to be administered to members and so forth and so on, and the text of which is carried in 5 U.S.C. 3331. IAB, so you can't put in your, got to use your full legal name. Do solemnly swear, and they go through, and then it ends with so help me God, which is a religious test. So obviously, this is an unconstitutional oath. It doesn't matter what it says. It may be an oath you need to take for an office, but it's unconstitutional as far as satisfying the 6th article of the Constitution because it has a religious test. And then all these people then, for their AB, put in this style name. Like this dude put in Eric A. Rick Crawford. Rick in quotes. It's not his name. You got people using middle initials. You got people putting like Buddy. All sorts of things other than their full legal name. Now, did you know, Steve, you cannot actually go and find a copy of the oath that these people took because they locked them up for 30 years. Can't get a copy of it. But this said the oath of office required by the 6th article of the Constitution of the United States, comma. So that's what I just showed you, 1 Stat 23. You have to take that one and this. And actually, this oath here is the oath that was like the scaled down version of the ironclad oath after the Civil War to allow people from the South to, join the government again. And so ever since then, they've been pushing the United States out, replace it with the United States of America. Nobody has an oath of office. They talk about us being a democracy. That's what they're running. But they are not the United States 6-article government. And so they have no say over people like me. And yet they're trying to do it. So this is where the military comes in. Because we've been invaded by esquires. Almost all these people are probably esquires. Right? I mean, they're attorneys. But whether they are not, then take an oath of office, you're not qualified to call yourself a congressman of the United States Congress. And then after all these lying fucktards did the first thing, then they came in again and said, well, let's do it again. We'll take another oath for access to classified information. And they'll do it under a fictitious name. Well, brother, that's a sign of a spy, right? If you were to go look in the DOD Law of War Manual and looked at what's the definition of a spy, the first one it'll tell you is, well, during the time of war to hide your identity, that's an indication of a spy. Well, that's what's happening because we're at war now. We've always been at war. We've been at war since the Civil War, and this is why there's gold fringed flags that flying everywhere inside of buildings. That's an Army flag. Well, it's not an Army flag, but it's controlled by the Army. It's controlled by an Army regulation. AR 840-10. Yeah, here it is, Steve. AR, or Army Regulation 840-10. AR 840-10. And skip down a few pages, get to Chapter 2. Whoop, a little bit too far. Right, here's 2.3, sizes and occasions for display. And to get through this stuff here and get down to this part here, where it says B, national flags listed below are for indoor display and use in ceremonies and parades. For this purpose, the flag of the United States does not say United States of America. The flag of the United States will be rayon banner cloth, heavyweight nylon, trimmed on 3 sides with gold yellow fringe, 2 1/2 inches wide. Well, that's the flag of the United States. Okay, then it says the flag of the United States is authorized for indoor display in each. And then all these things that it's mentioning are military offices of one kind or another, except this SES employee for permanent retention, which it's senior executive branch or something like that. All right, but you see, here's one of them, military courtroom. Now, I'm sure if you've been in a courtroom and you've been paying attention to the decorations, you've seen a gold fringe flag. Why you've been in court? It's a military court. Well, it's a military courtroom, but the guy sitting there hasn't taken the proper oath of office, and unless he's taken an oath to be a military officer, then he's not a military judge, so he's just impersonating one. He's impersonating a judge of the United States. Right? So it doesn't matter if it's the magistrate or the judge or any of them people up there, or the prosecutor, the United States attorney. They're all either, well, we can look at it. I have it pulled up right here. All right, the senators and representatives before mentioned, and members of the several state legislatures, and all, ALL, all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification for an office of public trust under the United States. Office or public trust under the United States. Well, there you have it. Right? If that's a judge of a court of the United States, well, then he's a judicial officer of the United States. But they didn't take the oath. So, but here's an oath that a lot of them take. Well, that's not what I wanted to. That's a different thing. Hang on here. Right? They take an oath of union membership, where I state your name on my own free will and accord, do hereby solemnly promise and pledge my honor that I will be loyal and true to the American Federation of Government Employees, the AFL-CIO. This is the largest federal employee union, and it makes its members take an oath. Well, the United States, according to the Constitution, is a union, and it was going to make its members take an oath. But it didn't happen. The oath is there, but it's not being taken. And so, why would they do all this? Well, that's what I had this open for. Let me look at this real quick, because this is interesting. This is the Military Retirement Fund, Steve. You can Google it. Military Retirement Fund. Look it up. They have an audit. That's what this came out of. And in this audit, it shows that as of 2021, well, let me go to 2022 now. There's this now is in billions of dollars, right? $1,253,900,000,000 in this retirement fund. That's one T with a trillion, almost $1.25 trillion in a retirement fund of paid retirement pay that was supposed to have gone to a retiree, a veteran retiree, but they didn't claim it, so they put it into this fucking fund. And because, there's all this money here and somebody's got to watch it, well, the payroll to do that is $75 billion. And then the cost to run the show is another $36 billion. So they're taking $100 billion out a year out of the fund that was funded with military retirement fund or military retirement pay. Again, this isn't the rainy day stuff. The Congress pays for the retirement every year. What's happening is, because of the way they've screwed up the system, there's a lot of people being paid retirement that aren't getting it, such as myself, such as you. Right? Fiscal year 2020, Military Retirement Fund Audit Financial Report. I know that you're an investment banker. Well, there you go. Banker, go take a look at that. And then when you get done with that, go find your county's comprehensive annual financial, I think it's report, CAFR. Right? Because in my county of Kent, Michigan, the statement of net position, which, after everything's paid, what's the net of this poor county, right? These counties are so poor. Well, that isn't quite the true because the net is somewhere between $500 million and $650 million, right? When you add the component units part to the total for the primary government. But primary government had $448 million, and the units had $627 million. And you add those up, that's $1 billion in net after everything's paid for the county that they have sitting in accounts. And yet they still want more taxes. Right? That's how she's going. The money goes in, never comes out. So the country's filthy rich. It's just stuffed in all these accounts that we can't get at. But you can imagine if you were to unleash $1 trillion worth of retirement pay for veterans into the system. I mean, this is true money already been in the system, already paid for. How much good that could do for the economy. We need to figure out how to get that done. Yeah, Steve, these people right here, right? This is the AFGE, American Federal Government Employees. And they're the ones that take this oath here. That says they got to be loyal to the government of the United States, but there isn't one because nobody's taken a proper oath of office. So now they're just doing whatever they're told by the American Federation of Government Employees. So get on the phone and, them and the teachers of union and all these other unions and stir up all this trouble all over the place. And that's the same with all your Esquire DC bar friends. Well, I'm sure you're friends with all sorts of attorneys and lawyers, and they use all these terms. But if they're a member of the DC bar or the bar of the state, I think a state of Michigan bar, whatever the words are, right? To be a member of those bars, the member has to revoke, rescind, abandon, whatever the proper word is, their constitutional protections because they give up the right to free speech by becoming a member of the bar. Well, you give up one right, you gave them all up. Just that's the same as if Lincoln declared martial law for one thing because of habeas corpus, well, it's martial law over everything. You suspend habeas corpus, you suspended the Constitution, which is really what he did. He suspended the Constitution. That's what happened on September 15th, 1863. Suspended the writ of habeas corpus, which is the same as suspending the Constitution, which put us under martial law, which really put us under now the Lieber Code, right, which is General Order 100 that he had published earlier in the year. I think it was March 1863, which says in the second article that once martial law has been declared, it takes a peace treaty or a special proclamation for the commander-in-chief to end it. Then things have never happened. And so all these places of gold fringe flags, they're like wartime agencies of the wartime government that was created. But because of Reconstruction, somehow all of the, power for us or the protection from the military, they were all told they had to stay in D.C. Right? So, the United States really isn't represented in the states, even though the United States is under martial law. And all these esquires join this bar. They have to give up their constitutional protections. And so they have joined, they're voluntary members of an association that advocates the overthrow of our constitutional form of government because it made its members give up their constitutional protections. That's 18 U.S.C. I can't remember the number, but I'm going to go find it. I mean, it's a federal law. By joining this, they violated a federal law. Yeah, it's Title 18, United States Code, so it's 18 U.S.C. subsection 1918. Disloyalty and asserting the right to strike against the government. Whoever violates the provisions of some other section of Title 5, that individual may not accept or hold a position in the government of the United States or the government of the District of Columbia if he advocates the overthrow of a constitutional form of government, is a member of an organization that advocates the overthrow of a constitutional form of government. Well, they're going to claim they don't know, but they gave up their constitutional protections to join it. So that's an organization that advocates the overthrow of a constitutional form of government. Plus, they didn't take an oath of office. That's disloyal. Now, St. Thomas More, he was disloyal to Henry VIII because he wouldn't take a loyalty oath. And what happened to him? He was executed. So by common law, the penalty for not taking a loyalty oath when it's required is execution of some form, by guillotine, let's say, because that's, I guess, how he had beheading. Let's call it beheading. Okay, so, I mean, that's all going on. Now, how did all this get going in the first place? How did we ever get in this position? I want to show you one thing that is a big reason. Hang on. So these people who didn't take an oath of office that we call the Congress, it doesn't stop them from acting like the Congress. In fact, I believe that's why this is in uppercase, is because this is like de facto Congress. But it's a statute at large, so it's the law of the land at this particular time, at least in the democracy. And Public Law 102.14 of March 20th, 1991, or MAR. I shouldn't say March because it doesn't say March. It says MAR 20, 1991. Whereas Congress recognizes the historical, traditional, and ethical values and principles which are the basis of civilized society and upon which our great nation was founded. Whereas these ethical values and principles have been the bedrock of society from the dawn of civilization when they were known as the, wait for it, 7 Noahide laws. So Congress believes that our nation is founded on 7 laws of the Jew, right? Not in the Bible. Just this is what, we got some special insights. This is what we were told. They made the shit up, right? And so the false Jews of today are trying to enforce the rules, the false rules of the real Jews in the time of Jesus and before. But the people of today are false Jews because they believe they got their Jew from their mama. Where in the Bible it clearly shows that Jesus, a Jew, got his Jew from his dad and went all the way back to Adam. He could follow his lineage back to Adam. Well, Herod and whoever the Roman general were made sure that that shit didn't happen anymore. They destroyed all the books, and they destroyed the temples. So none of these people know who their daddy is anymore. So they have to claim their Jew comes from their mom. Now, if you were to take a false Jew of today and put him in a room with a Old Testament Jew, only one of them guys coming out alive. And I'm going to put my money on the Old Testament Jew. Right? Because he is a Jew. These other fuckers are pretending to be Jews. But they're using the Talmud that was given to them, the Khazarian. We know they were talking about the Khazarians, right? Who got the Jewish teachings, but they're not Jews. They have no claim on Israel. They have no claim on nothing. And they're a menace to society. Don't know what to tell you. That's why they've been kicked out of every fucking country in Europe, God knows how many different times. So, I'm not picking on them. I'm just saying that's the problem. You want to know where the problem starts? It's because Congress says we're under the no-hide laws. It doesn't say nothing about being under the Constitution. Well, this shit's got to go. This is the democracy at work. And then just to show you an example, if you try to say, well, Esquires it doesn't mean nothing. I mean, we just, we like to use it. It doesn't have any meaning. Then how come in the New Jersey court system, right, this is all to do with the administration of the court, all these people are Esquires. ESQ, 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 with a period. Well, which one of those was back in the... Where's that treaty of peace? Did any of these guys just do ESQ period? Let's just take a quick look. Where were they? No, we got ESQR, ESQ, apostrophe R, and ESQR with no period, and one with a period. So they're not even using the same style. But it doesn't change the fact that whoever these people are on official letterhead of their court are claiming to be ESQs. And if you look up the definition of an esquire, it'll tell you it's a crown agent. And it's not a title of nobility. That would be the knight. But an esquire was the knight's shield bearer. And way down the class system below them then is this guy called the Mr. MR. He's the one that cleans the stables. He ain't got no fucking rights. And you go to court, they want you to be the MR and they be the esquire. And that's the way she rolls today in America. So anyways, Steve, or whoever watching that may get a hold of Steve, right? You could go to Rob Ryder on YouTube with 3 B's, ROBBBRYDER. And if you search on the videos, you see, I've done over 400 videos now. And they're all on topics like this right now. I mean, they're really in depth. You got to be sharpen your pencil. And so this last one, explaining the complaining, I was showing in the one before, signs of the devil, esquires are found in the details. We'll show you all these different little things they do, like in a traffic ticket or on a mortgage or other things. And, I've been trying for years to figure out how you get some relief. But it's mainly been trying to deal with them in their court. And so I'm trying some different things now. And that'll be in my next couple of videos. But one of them is going to small claims instead of going to the Superior Court, where you have to be... The difference is in the Superior Court, you have to be represented. But in small claims, it's in personam jurisdiction. It's a court of equity, right? Where the larger court is a court of law. And the court of law is going to be going by the record. And these records have errors in them, but they're still there as a record. So that's the record they're going to use. And we don't know how to get the records fixed. And so, as an example, if you own a house, then you know that in the official records of the county, where the house is located, is a copy of the mortgage. And that mortgage says that you borrowed so much money and so forth and so on and whatever it says. But if you really look at it and say, well, if I actually borrowed this money from the lender, then there must be a contract that both I and the lender signed. And that doesn't exist, because the lender doesn't sign anything with the borrower. They never lent you any money. It's not difficult to figure out. I don't know where it came from. I'm telling you, they didn't lend it to you. It wasn't their money. They didn't sign a contract. So they can't say that they gave you a loan. So I believe how this works, Steve, is there's lots of different theories in this, but basically, everybody has a Social Security account through their birth record, and that it has a value to it. We've all been given an equal share of the public trust. And we should all be using our share of the public trust. But instead, we're kept from using ours, and we only get to work out of a small pool that they put in, that the bankers put into a pool, right? That they control by usury. Instead of saying, well, here's your share of the public trust, do with it as you please, through an act like the Sesta KV Act of 1666, where they burnt down the City of London and all the records, and then they said, well, if you don't come back and claim your stuff in 7 months or 7 years, we're going to presume you're dead or lost beyond the sea, and we're going to take it back and we'll hold it in trust for you. Well, that's what they're doing now. They're holding all our property in trust and pretending we don't exist, because they're not trying Stephen Keith Bannon, they're trying Stephen K. Bannon. Right? And they're not doing it in their full legal name. They're using the middle initial name also. So it's all done under fictitious people for fictitious purposes. Right? It isn't that they don't ever really fix anything. In the court cases never actually really close. Just goes on and on and on, because they've created this alternative jurisdiction or parallel jurisdiction, right, called the United States of America, which is run by Esquires, which we've been shanghaied into. Instead of us being in the Republic, self-governing ourselves under written rules enforced by elected or appointed officers, we find ourselves in the democracy, United States of America, which is where the Republicans and Democrats are, where that's the people that need to be governed. I think it's like, isn't that what Ben Franklin said? Right? We're giving you a republic, right? So you can either govern yourself or you'll be governed. Or we give you a republic if you can hold it. And then somebody else said, you either govern yourselves or you'll be governed. Well, this is the thing. If you're governing yourselves, you're in the republic, where every state has a Republican form of government guaranteed by the United States Union, compared to now, if you're in the United States of America, you're in the democracy, and you get whatever the democracy gives you. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with this, Steve, because like I said, I'm looking for an answer. I don't have an answer. I never claimed to have one. I just try all sorts of things because, there's nothing they can do to me. I'm a veteran, right? So, and I'm not breaking any laws. Everything I do is exactly the truth. I'm using what they said and showing it to them, and it's like taking the truth to the Pharisee, and just got to deal with it. But one of the thoughts is that our relief comes from the small claims court in the District of Columbia. And the reason for that is that they have jurisdiction over things like the Consumer Protection Act for the District of Columbia. And every state has one of these Consumer Protection Acts, and you'll see in my last couple of videos I've talked about it. I'll be showing it in my next video again. This act has been created in all these different states. And so deceptive acts and practices, right, is something that you can take to small claims for some certain, they got a name for it, actual damages, right, that they've put into the law. So you don't have to know what it is. You just say, well, that's what you're going after, right? And really what you're going for is to try to get a declaratory judgment that this thing has happened to you, whatever it is that's happened. But the reason for the District of Columbia is, like the state of Michigan, I can't sue them in court except under their own rules and regulations. But I can in the District of Columbia because they do business in the District of Columbia. They have an office in the District of Columbia. It's in the Hall of States or something like that. So I could take state of Michigan to court in the District of Columbia. And one of the documents then, when you look under small claims, is this thing called Fere Facius, which I don't know that much about, but what I do know is it says that the President of the United States to the Marshal of the said district, greeting. That this has been issued by the President of the United States. Well, there's a rule of the Supreme Court that says that process of the Supreme Court is issued out in the name of the President of the United States. Well, that's what this is doing. Right? So it's like the small claims court of the Superior, or small claims division of the Superior Court of the District Court is the Supreme Court of the District of Columbia. Because it's all in personam jurisdiction. And the other jurisdictions, people are hiding behind, some kind of NGO or corporation or LLC or whatever else they've created. But, when you bring them here, this is, in personam jurisdiction where if you bring an LLC, the owner has to show up. So, anyways, that may be now. I need to take that back because last part, they may still be able to use an attorney, but it's the entity and its legal name that is being brought to court. And as it turns out, in small claims in the District of Columbia, you can bring the United States to court. And I'm actually trying to do it in a court case now, and I'll show that in another video because this won't get too long. But where I'm going back and forth with the clerk right now to get this thing filed into a court case to take the United States to a small claims case based on the fact that none of these people have an oath of office. So I'll just save that for them. I'm just showing. Right, they have this document. It says the President of the United States. Right, so let me show you the Supreme Court rule. Hang on. All right, rules of the Supreme Court of the United States. And for whatever reason, this works really slow on here. I wonder if it has something to do with the war going on. Which one is it? Here it is. Rule 45, process and mandates. Let's see what it says. That's page 60. 41. Let's see, where's page 60? What page is this? 58. 60, process. All process this court issues in the name of the President of the United States. Well, if you go look at most of the stuff coming out of the Supreme Court, then we think it's the Supreme Court. It's not in the name of the President of the United States. It's their opinion. And if we just take a quick look at some pictures of the Supreme Court, we see, well, there's a flag flying on a flagpole outside. That's a sign that it has some kind of attachment to the military. And they've kind of changed these pictures. I've been talking about this for so long. I think they've started changing the pictures around. Here we go. Here's one. All right, here's the Supreme Court. And there's Gold Fringe flag. And there's actually one on the other side, too. There's actually two big-ass gold fringe flags flying in that courtroom. Well, that makes it a military court. AR 840-10. Can't get around it. Right? So, Steve, if you know somebody in the military, you can go talk to them and say, brothers, this is what this says. And, go look around at all the different places. Here it is right here. Flag of the United States is authorized indoor display. Headquarters, organization, battalion size, military offices, military courtrooms, U.S. elements of Joint Command, subordinate element of U.S. Recruiting Command, ROTC units, SES, employees. That's the only places that can be displayed. Other than outside in a parade, right? And when it is, it's, if it's with all the services like a color guard, it's the Army carrying the flag. So, hey, back to you, Steve. This is where they got you, right? They got you to agree to be a defendant in a case between the United States of America, which is King George's jurisdiction, and the alias Stephen K. Bannon, which, because it's the middle initial, it's not your full legal name. That kind of makes you like a spy. In a hearing or in a case where you've put in, you said you're not guilty, right? But you still entered a plea as a defendant. Well, if you're a defendant in a court case, you're guilty, or you wouldn't have been the defendant. They have probable cause to get you there, right? And you could have had them prove their case, but you decided not to. You waived the arraignment, which is where they would have had to come in and prove their case. But they don't have a case because, as I showed you, right? You're not using your full legal name. They're not using their full legal name. It's not the United States. There's actually 2 different cases going on against Stephen K. Bannon right now. You're being tried twice for the same offense, apparently, because they have the same case numbers, except for that last digit. All right, there it is. You got, and this is the one where the paper's in, Stephen K. Bannon, right? So let's go, just to show you real quick, so that's the one they're defending you in. This one doesn't have it. But if we go on, we'll see where another one does. That doesn't have anything. That doesn't have anything. That's just not the dash one. There's one that's got a dash one here. Where the hell is it? There it is. Notice appearance. Right? Your one attorney appeared into the one without the dash one, and these people appeared in the one with the dash one. Well, with the dash one isn't something against the United States of America, it's just Stephen K. Bannon. Right? So, I'm not going to try to understand all this stuff. I'm just pointing it out. You got CJN and CJN-1. And you had one attorney appear in USA versus Bannon, another one appear in Stephen K. Bannon, which, this is the name that's on the indictment and so forth. But up here it's just USA versus Bannon. And one Stephen K. Bannon. And like Stephen K. Bannon with your name by yourself, that's more like something they would do in a probate case. Right? So where there isn't really a plaintiff and a defendant, there's just you wanting to do something or being done through probate to you. So your ass is being probated right now. Okay, it's a big mess, Steve. That's all I can tell you. And I know that one of your compadres just got indicted today. I don't remember what his name is now. But he's gonna have the exact same problems. So you boys need to start naming your cannons at these Esquires. So have somebody from your staff call me, and I'll fill in some blanks. I can do a much better job, and I know what questions to answer than me just try to do these videos time and time again, because I've been harping on this for so long that I can't remember what I said in a video now that maybe I should have said that I said in my last video, because they all run together. You get the idea. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, and thanks for watching. And if anybody can help get this to Steve Bannon and get him to watch the first 5 minutes or so, I'm sure he'll watch the rest of it. Very good. You all have a nice weekend. And I'm going to do a video here shortly on, like I said, on the things that we're trying by sending things like criminal complaints to the Attorney General of the state and so forth. Okay, that's enough. See you. Bye.